Everyone in Spain is so beautiful. There's no black people. Why is being dark bad?
There's no follow-up.
No one explains it. Hi everyone, my name is Asia Jackson. I'm Black and Filipino.
And I'm Anthea. I'm a Ghanaian woman.
Today we're going to react to Anti-Blackness in Filipino culture.
Anti-Blackness is like Filipino food.
Some of it is found in our colonized past, and it's always been present growing up in our family traditions, our community culture, and even in the media.
First of all, say Prince Zuko. But second of all, in the Philippines, when you're younger, they tell you to pinch your nose so that it grows taller.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Europeans, when they came to the Philippines, they had really tall noses, and a lot of indigenous Filipinos have flatter noses. Even though I experienced colorism, I was always complimented for my nose because it's tall and pointy. So it was a really interesting experience. I don't know.
Filipinos are naturally dark.
In fact, the indigenous people of the Philippines value their dark skin as spiritual and celebrate it through religious ceremonies.
Okay, I think that was really interesting that he brought up indigenous people because I'm indigenous. My mom is Igorot. I didn't really experience colorism from my own family. Did you experience anything like that?
From other people as well. Oh, you've gone a bit darker. I wasn't aware of why it was something that needed to be pointed out.
It's why is being dark bad?
Yeah.
No one really...
There's no follow-up.
Yeah, there's no follow, exactly. Yeah. No one knows why being dark is bad.
Yeah.
No one explains it.
We know it or not, as in to excuse our anti-Blackness behavior. At our family dinner, my grandfather was sitting across the room from me. We were talking about having kids, and he said, just as long as they're not Black. And it was even more alarming.
I have to tell you a story, something that happened with one of my mom's coworkers who's also Filipino. I remember she went on vacation to Spain. When she came back, she told my mom, knowing that she married a Black man and has a Black child, she told my mom oh my God, everyone in Spain is so beautiful. There's no Black people. And my mom was what a crazy thing to say. Yeah. And it was crazy because she was so casual about it. My mom was supposed to agree with her or something. And I think that just speaks to how ingrained it is in the culture that you could just say something like that.
Yeah, and she thought the response was going to be oh, really?
Oh my God, yeah. I married a Black person and I have a Black child. You're totally right.
Yeah.
The assimilation factor that many of our Filipino families adopted when they came to the States made it even harder for them, for us, for you, to look in the mirror and say goodbye to the whiteness that we see.
I wanted to speak on the assimilation aspect. Even if you didn't grow up in the US or you're not part of the diaspora, you're just growing up in the Philippines. This singular beauty standard that's being sold to people because of anti-Blackness is kind of taking people away from embracing what they naturally have, thinking that there's something wrong with them.
Growing up in London, we have in East London, we have a big Filipino community. So then when I started engaging with Filipino media, I was why is everyone lighter? Because I've always assumed most Filipinos were brown.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there's a large group of people that look nothing like them, but they are never shown on larger platforms.
Exactly.
Acknowledge that our struggles are tied to Black struggles.
Filipinos should care because our very rights and freedoms as Filipino Americans are a direct result of the Black liberation movements of the past and of the present.
I think that this kind of messaging though can be taken in a wrong way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's we have our rights because of Black people, so because of that we should care. Yeah. But I don't know, I feel solidarity should be more about
they shouldn't have a clause behind it.
Yeah, I feel you should just care because it's the right thing to do. But I do agree with what they say. I just think that it can be taken in a different way.
Yeah.
If you are Black and Filipinx like me, tell your story, at least to your family. It is 100% on you to put that noise, the systemic racism behind you, and walk into a more loving, accepting version of you who's ready to co-create a brand new world with the rest of us.
So here.
Oh my God, what she just said is one of the reasons why I speak so much online about being Black and Filipino, because when I first started my career in entertainment and online space, I was very ambiguous. They were oh, you're Native Hawaiian, you're Samoan, you're Latina. There was just so many things and people didn't know what I was, and I kind of liked it. I was nobody knows what I am. But when I was younger, I loved Apple de App from Black Eyed Peas because he's Black and Filipino. And I remember how much happiness he brought me in a way because he was so proud of being Black and Filipino. At that time when I was like 10 years old, I was so ashamed of identifying that way. Maybe I could be that for somebody else. And I think that just goes to show you like how important it is to be comfortable in your identity as a public figure.
I feel like I had a plethora of like role models in real life. You had Beyonce, but then Kelly Rowland for me was like, she's like closer to my skin tone, but she's still this beautiful, talented woman rather than like a star adjacent. And then when she went out and did her own thing, I was like, oh, okay. So she's like standing on her own as a darker skinned woman. And that was really special to see. Like American media as well. Like you look at people who are half Filipino, Olivia Rodrigo, she's half Filipino, but she's half white. And you have someone like Stephen Lacey, who's half Filipino, but he's half Black. There's a lot of Filipinos like her and Sweetie, but all of them are half Black. So it's like, they're not valued the same way because they're like, their Blackness is seen before their Filipino identity.
To be on the right side of history.
To be that constant affirmation to our children that their noses, hair, skin, and body types are beautiful. And when that time comes, and believe me it will, if it hasn't already, they were faced with the question by our Black brothers and sisters, does my life matter? What will you say? Black Lives Matter.
All right, now we're going to read some comments from the video. I see a lot of paragraphs here, so I'm probably gonna get mad, but it's okay. Filipinos in the Philippines don't define Blackness under the same context as Westerners do. If a Black-skinned person went to the Philippines, they would be adored for the Blackness of their skin. As a Black person, I can tell you right now that that is just not true.
There's a reason why to look a certain way makes you higher class, or
Exactly.
it's because it's further away from Blackness.
Exactly.
Why is that associated with that? You can't separate the association with the reality of the actual color.
Right.
Now we have to address why being darker skinned is not higher class.
Right. This is beautiful. I'm not Asian, but I can relate. My aunties used to tell me that if I get too dark, no proper Latino would want me. Oh, it still affects me even when I know it's not true. I still worry about being too dark despite being a medium-skinned Black person. It's beyond crazy how this intersects cultures. All of the people on this video have amazing skin and are beautiful. I totally relate to this after I experienced colorism in the Philippines. When I was in high school, I was captain of my dance team and I almost quit because I didn't want to be outside to like be darker. Like it made me so insecure.
I had a childhood friend who was like, there was like 3 of us, but she was the fairer one. And she got a lot of comments about how pretty she was growing up. And I was like, so I'm ugly? What's going on? Like, why is everyone talking about this one person? There's something different about us that I don't really understand because we're from the same country, we're from the same tribe. What is the difference between the two of us that she is the beautiful one? Random, but we've ended up dating the same person when we were in secondary school. That I dated him first and then she dated him later on. It made me very self-conscious for a while.
I don't know if we're ready for this conversation, but if we talk about anti-Blackness within the Philippines, we need to talk about anti-indigeneity as well. The two are tied together. I'd really like for us to push from the idea that our colorism is solely rooted in classism like the Chinese. It's rooted in anti-indigeneity, slavery, and the trafficking of our people. I hate it when I talk about online, whenever I make a YouTube video or I talk about colorism in Filipino communities online, someone is always like, oh, it's because in Asia, if you were like lighter skinned, then you were, you know, of a noble class. If you're darker skinned, you were like working out in the fields. And I'm like, listen, Philippines is a cluster of islands in the Southeast Pacific. So being brown is normal. Like it's okay to be brown. You know what I'm saying? East Asia was not colonized by Europeans the way that a lot of Southeast Asia was, particularly the Philippines. I mean, they were under Spanish rule for 333 years. And then right after that, they were under American rule. And then there was, you know, Japanese occupation in between that. But it was literally rooted by a caste system that was put in place by the Spanish. It's based on classism, but the class system was based on race. It was based on skin color. I think a lot of people don't realize that the one they implemented in the Americas. Enslaved Africans were at the bottom of this hierarchy. In the Philippines, the Negritos, the indigenous Black Asians, were put at the bottom of this hierarchy. So I really like that this person brought this up because there really is a difference. Colorism exists all around the world, but I think in the Philippines specifically, it's definitely rooted in colonialism. Probably the same in Ghana. I mean, I don't know much about Ghanaian history.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
The aftermath of colonialism,
Yeah.
it's like the lasting effects of it. This skin lightening cream is an interesting conversation because that's something that perpetuates every country, products everywhere, which is interesting because we have fair-skinned Ghanaians and dark skin, but like everyone is black. So it's like you're trying to approach being closer to whiteness, which is something you will never achieve.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you brought that up because there was a study that said that girls, specifically young girls, are cognizant of the effects of skin color and like the importance of skin color as early as like 6 years old.
I think it's sad when you're young because you don't understand that it's a system that is othering you. You just take it as, oh, because I am this way, like I'm less pretty or I'm less desirable or da-da-da. As you get older, you understand like there's certain systems and like things exist that are outside of your control. But when you're younger, it makes you like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about this thing.
Learning how colorism and anti-Blackness was all a system and learning about the history of it, it gave me like a greater sense of self. Like you said, this was much bigger than me. And some people don't learn those things and they continue being insecure. And I think that's why education about these topics is like really, really important. Thank you, One Down. These are really, really important conversations to have, especially in Filipino culture, but you know, worldwide. We met online a very, very long time ago. I would say like 2013. Yeah, and we've been friends ever since.
Just came to visit, haven't seen Asia in a couple of years, so thought take a trip, get some sun.
Don't forget to support a Black-owned business and follow your girl on YouTube and Instagram.
You can follow me at always Anthea. Nice.